Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your Average Tabletop. I'm Zach,
And I'm Pepper.
and today we are talking about the games we've played over kind of the last week-ish, mostly over the weekend. Doing some kind of quick reviews. These are ones we've played all on Board Game Arenas, and they're all new to us. And yeah, we're just gonna give you our initial thoughts, maybe a little bit of a first impression ranking. Most of them we've only played once each, maybe some a couple, but
Yeah.
overall, yeah. Let us know though in the comments below what you've been playing, what new games you've tried out, and also let us know if any of these look interesting to you and you'd like us to do a try before you buy. We do a lot of those, so usually that'll be games that we play on Board Game Arena. So we
Yeah.
think most of these we'd be willing to do, but you'll find out which ones we would be most willing to do.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're looking forward to On Tour or Yahtzee, it's too bad. We already knew those games. Those just kind of fit into the grid of the screen here. Not talking about those today, but we do
That's true.
recognize.
That is true. And yeah, you can go back. We actually have another video like this that I think we did about a month ago. It seemed like shorter than that ago, but it is a month. You can go check that out. It's kind of 10 more that we
Yeah.
played. So we played a lot of new ones recently. But yeah, we can just, I think we've got them in order, kind of
Yeah.
the order we played them, not necessarily in order of how we like them, necessarily. And yeah, we start off with My City was it Roll and Build? Yeah,
Roll it,
Roll and
Bill.
Build, making them complicated for me to know when they start using other words. And this one isn't the only one that does that.
Nope, it's
So
not.
we will get to another one as well. But yeah, this one is in the My City world.
Yep.
It's by Reiner Knizia. So if you've played My City or even My Island, it's very kind of
Very
similar
nice.
feeling to those ones. And yeah, it's got is it 12 game campaign thing?
Oh, yep.
Was it
Yeah.
12 games? And we actually played through that whole thing. So I
Yeah.
think it took
Nice
us,
sitting.
was it like 3 hours?
Like two
Something
to
like that.
3 hours, something like that.
Yeah. So
Um,
took us a little while, but
I'm interested in because my city is also on Board Game Arena, and you played a little bit of it on there. Is that about the
mhm.
same speed as this? Would you say?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
okay. Because I was thinking, oh, this is a quick version of that. And I'm like, well, probably about the same because it's just click and place. So
Hmm.
it's probably about the same duration for either one if you're playing it online. In
Right.
person, I would say this probably isn't as good looking as my city, and it probably, I think you've heard some complaints, and it probably does take longer to actually put things out there because you have to figure the shapes in your head. You don't get to test with like a polyomino tile, and
Hmm.
you have to spend your time drawing it onto the map. And if you make mistakes, it's a big whole thing. So in person, I don't know if I would have liked this nearly as much as I did on Board Game Arena, which was quite a bit.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think if I was drawing these out, because these are, and you could probably assign them colors if you were to do
Yeah,
it on your own, and you could just be like, oh, red is the X's and whichever shaded one. Yeah, you could have three different colors and do it that way, which would be very similar to their other ones. If you have played those in person, they just have colored polyominoes that you're placing out. Uh, but yeah, this one you're kind of rolling the shape, so it's not you don't necessarily know what's going to come out because it could be just a bunch of the same
yeah.
style ones, whereas in that it's more fixed if you
Yep.
play the normal game of it. But yeah, I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I think it would have, if it had been in person, would have been not quite as good. But I think the implementation on here is great. If you like the My City games, I would definitely recommend trying this one out. I think it's a solid game, and you just kind of, I don't know. The fun thing about this one is you don't, like I said, the shapes are not fixed, so you can always be hoping.
Yes. There
You're like, oh,
was
I need another small one. I need another small one.
Yeah, there was one round in particular where I was like, I'll not even why bother? I'll just pass and save a point. I could only gain a point really, and I wasn't really factoring in how far you can push your luck, and you ended up going on and getting a bunch of tiny one by one and one by two pieces, and for like 5 rounds after that, it was crazy, and so I love that. about this. Pretty great. And it's so fun to play a mini campaign just in one sitting.
Right.
I like this a lot. I'd probably give this first impression or experience, maybe kind of comparing it to some of the others we did. I'd give this a 9 out of 10.
No, no. Yeah, this one's one of the higher ones for me, I think, as well. But probably around an 8. I mean, I really in general like the My City system, even though it is very simple, and it's kind of similar and stuff, and it's just kind of based on how things come out. I'd probably give it 8, 8.25. Still pretty solid for me.
Yeah.
I'm just not as nice on the scoring as Pepper.
Yes.
Those two are probably about the same.
Always a point higher. Oh, I see we are matching clothes today.
Oh boy, we look like
Purple
a match
clothes.
over. Oh boy. My camera is terrible.
Okay, and then another one that I think we played this the same day as that. First off, is this higher or lower than My City? Maybe we play that game.
This one is lower for me.
I would say this is lower for me as well. Um, Although I do really like the core of the game, which is you get these cards and you're buying more throughout the game. You draw a hand of 5, and you can see they all have little boxes that are either completely enclosed in the center of the card or leading off the edge of the card, hoping to link up with a card next to it, because you only get to activate your complete boxes, and you get your 5 cards and you try to arrange them in a way to get all the resources you need to then maybe activate special trades at the bottom halves of these cards. Gave me a feeling of Earth, where you're kind of trying to build out your engine, your tableau, because you know it's going to activate from left to right, top to bottom. It felt like a little mini game version of that every one of my turns, which I really loved.
Yeah, I can see that thought on Earth on how they're activating. And yeah, I really liked the idea of this and how you were trying to connect them and stuff. I and maybe we only played this one time, so maybe with more plays, I could, get a better idea of how I could get these to connect together and manipulate things. But sometimes I felt like I just would get some that just didn't really
Yeah.
line up well, or it wouldn't give me the resource I needed to trade in for those points and stuff. You can see the little light bulb things. I think you're racing to a certain amount of points to trigger the end game. So sometimes, yeah, if it just doesn't quite line up well, or some of the tops line up and then the bottoms don't, I felt like it didn't get as satisfying as I'd hoped that it was going to when I was first, looking at this and being like, oh, this looks really cool, like getting these connected and getting all these rewards and stuff. But I do like the concept of it quite a bit, and yeah, knowing what's going to activate in what order and stuff is a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
And then you're trading out apes and stuff as well potentially, and adding new ones to your deck of apes. And I think that's part of it too, like not knowing how those are going to come out together, which ones, because you can kind of get different ones that kind of specialize at doing different things.
Yeah.
And maybe with more plays, I could get a better idea of that as well.
It's cool, and you don't know exactly what card you're buying. You're just knowing kind of the type and whether it's more value, because I think they aren't face up on the market, are they? You just know you get one that kind of does this. So yeah, there is a bit of randomness. I felt like I had some rounds that really came together well with the cards I had, and I know you had some that you get this great benefit on the bottom, and you don't have anything to link it with. That's unfortunate.
Right. And like I said, that could just be on me not having experience with the game. Possibly playing it more would maybe give me the experience I need to know. Okay, I got to do this if I want to do that. But yeah, I think after initial thoughts, I would probably give this one maybe a 6.5. Like I for what seemed like a very cool concept, I was not immediately drawn into wanting to play this one right away again.
Yeah, I'd probably give it an 8, but my cards were really firing off very satisfyingly, I admit. Probably factors in at least.
Yeah, it did seem like yours were pretty good, and like I said, maybe I could have been doing something totally wrong, not getting the right cards to do it, and just not noticing like, oh, I need this to activate that type thing.
Oh boy. Daybreak.
Daybreak.
Higher or lower? I would say Daybreak is a little lower for me
Then the last one
than After Us. Yes. I'll just
after
do it
us.
against the most recent.
I would say this one's pretty close for me to After Us, maybe slightly higher, but
No.
pretty close for me.
Yeah, it's not a big drop for me. But
Yeah, so this one is one of the reasons we played this one was they recently announced the Spiel des Jahres nominees, so you can go check out. We have a video reacting to that. This was one of them, and or the I think this was for the Kinderspiel, right? Or was this? This was Kinderspiel, I believe.
Spiel.
Yeah, because the other one was Darwin's, and another one we're going to be looking at, and one we've already looked at uh, in previous videos, Sky Team. And then the other one we're going to get to here next. But this one, it's a cooperative game. You're working together to kind of uh, help the planet, save the planet in a way, clean it up a little bit, get rid of your carbon footprints, and you're got kind of these. I don't know. I'd call it a tableau, I guess, in front of you of cards, and they've got kind of some tags on them that will be used in performing actions on the bottoms of cards, and you can either kind of stack them on top, so then that's the only one with the action showing, or you can tuck them under, so then their tags kind of go towards that action potentially, and then you're just kind of utilizing those things, trying to maybe create a little bit of an engine to be able to clean up your energy and create more kind of I don't know green energy, so to say.
Yeah.
And you're working as a team, depending on how many players and stuff you're trying to do a certain amount of it, I guess. And
Yeah.
yeah, I I like this one. It probably is better for me than After Us, I think. And um, yeah, I don't know that I liked it enough that I was like, oh, I think this one should be a nominee for Game of the Year. But I can see some appeal to it. It's a good theme, and there is some cool stuff that can happen with the cards. You can get pretty powerful ones.
Oh yeah.
Once you start stacking a bunch of cards and potentially fire off something with a lot of symbols, that
Oh
can be pretty cool, pretty
yeah.
satisfying.
Yeah. I really love the card stacking in this game, and it is like early on you feel like there's no way I'm ever gonna offset all this dirty energy that I have, but you do eventually somehow, seemingly out of nowhere to me, because it seems like, oh, I removed one that's doing almost nothing, and then the next round you just get some good cards together and you you get half the way that you need to get, and it does get pretty satisfying at a certain point. But there are a lot of things that just all the systems of corruption and all that. We played it on Board Game Arena, which handled it very nicely, but I don't know if I like fully grasp it or understand exactly everything that's going on, and I think that holds it back a little bit for me. So
Yeah,
I'd give it a 7. Still a good solid
no,
game.
yeah. For me, it would probably end up being kind of that 6.75, maybe a 7 on a good day for me. Not necessarily one that I'm looking to play all the time, but might get the itch to play it every now and then.
Good boy. Captain Flip.
Okay, so the actual Spiel nominee, Spiel des
Yes.
Jahres, that one was the Kenner Spiel. Yes, this is Captain Flip. So we also played this one because of those nominations. And yeah, this one at first I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a child's game, or maybe a little bit too simple. It kind of because of the look of it. It looked like it
Yeah.
was maybe one that was a little bit more like really for families, young kids possibly. And I suppose you could, as a younger child, still play this one. I think it's definitely the most approachable out of I guess the two that I've played out of the three. And yeah, this one you've got these tiles of different pirates, and they do kind of different things. And on the backs, they have another pirate type that does a specific thing. Uh, and you either have to place it in your ship in one of the kind of or one of the columns at the closest to the bottom spot. Pepper can explain that a little bit better.
The
That wasn't the best way
bottommost
to explain.
space of a column.
Yeah,
But
the
yeah,
ones
you
that aren't
can,
already filled in. But yeah,
yes, you can place it there, and they all have various ways to gain coins, and you can get
mm,
coins by completely filling columns. Um, I the choice to flip a tile at the start. You can take it face up as it is, or you can flip it and push your luck and hope to get something a little better. I really love that part of the game. I think that adds so much to it other than just randomly drawing a tile and getting it. You are randomly getting a tile, but you have a little choice to make, and that's always exciting when you do decide to flip it, and it works out great sometimes, and sometimes not so much. Uh,
yes, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of luck in this one,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I think the fact that it is a short game, it's so short actually that I think we played it like three, maybe
yeah,
four times. Uh, it's it is a lot of fun. It's a lot funner than I thought it would probably be. It is Palamori, which I
oh,
guess he liked pirate themes. I think there's also maybe another designer, but uh, yeah, I liked this one quite a bit. It was definitely more than the last two, um, but it's still definitely a filler style game. But I could play this one a
yeah,
couple of times in a row, especially on Board Game Arena because the games are just so quick. You're trying to kind of fill up. I think four columns triggers the end of the
yeah,
game. Whoever does that first, yeah, and yeah, we tried different levels. I do like that it had kind of different
yeah, different
shapes and stuff
layouts.
that did different, slightly different things. Look for slightly different um, things that you had to do to complete the columns. I thought
Yeah,
this was pretty solid. I could definitely see this one winning the Spiel des Jahres because it's definitely going to be family friendly.
yeah, yeah. I'd give this an 8 to 9. This one, for how simple the core of the game is, they really nailed it with just a little tweak of being able to flip a tile and the character abilities. I think each one of them is really interesting and has its place.
Mhm.
Except maybe this guy. We weren't really ever able to score all that much with
We
him. He
weren't.
wants one in every column. We were unfortunate. Maybe we should have been flipping more tiles to try to get him.
It could be that. It definitely could be that. Uh, yeah, I'd probably give this one maybe a 7.5 to 8.
Oh, yeah.
Depending on what I'm feeling. If I'm feeling like a filler game, I can see myself playing this one.
Yeah. Did I say my
Pretty
number?
fun.
Forget. I
You
was
did.
thinking.
Eight
Okay,
to
I
nine.
thought so. Yes.
Yes, you did.
Very,
Yes, you did.
very good.
Unless you changed your mind.
Changes the two. Speaking of
Uh,
twos, we played a two-player game of this one,
oh boy.
Mini Rogue. And this one, you create a grid. You choose a trait, or you were like a wizard or whatever they're called. I was a rogue, and you go create a little mini dungeon. There's 4 floors, and there's multiple levels within each floor. It's hard to figure out when you're trying to reference something to another player. Okay, we're on the 4th level. No, the second level of the second floor in the fourth room. Uh, can be
It's like
interesting, but
third cousin twice removed.
exactly. But then you're starting at the top left and kind of moving one to the right or one down to these different cards, which you encounter either baddies that you have to battle, or equipment that you can buy, or traps that you have to try to avoid, mostly based on your dice rolls, which is just skill checks of whether you succeed. A lot of the time, you'll get positive benefits or negative benefits if you don't. But one of the things that I really loved about this one, it's quick, but the exploding dice in combat, where if you roll a 6, you can roll it again and add on even more points of damage, which you are risking. If you roll a 0, then you lose all your points there that you've gained.
Yes, that was one of the funnest parts of the game, especially when we faced something that is like, oh gosh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to roll pretty high here. But then you always know you have a chance because it's like
Yeah.
if you roll the 6, you have a chance to re-roll it, so you're always in it. I mean, it's a low chance, but you
Yeah.
have a potential to do it. And sometimes I felt like we'd get two sixes or something on our dice and would be able to re-roll all that if we wanted. But usually we would kill it by then, so we wouldn't have to risk that. But just fun to
Mhm.
think about potentially doing that more damage and stuff. But yeah, I do like that. these cards too kind of have. It depends which floor you're on. Sometimes on what you will check
Oh,
for the monsters anyway. So I
mm,
do like that. That was kind of cool. I thought, depending on what or floor level,
yeah,
whichever. Like you said, where you can see there, they get more deadly as you go on, can cause you to have some effects like poison and stuff.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, I thought this one was pretty solid. I was kind of like, I don't know at first, but as we were going through it, I'm like, this is pretty fun.
yeah, yeah.
But once you die, you're done. But uh, it is fun to try to get through it and kind of try to decide, do I go for it or not? And I'd be interested in maybe seeing what the other characters do as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd probably give this one maybe an 8. I do feel like it's held back a little bit with this one as well because it handles everything for us and it kind of
Yeah,
really just immediately jumps to the next card on Board Game Arena, which I like not having to manage things. But there were some things still I'm like, I don't know exactly what this means or that means or what causes some things in the game. Uh, so
yeah.
just the slightest back.
I think by the time we were getting done with our floor, I was finally starting to understand what it meant by because you've got a black die and some white dice that you're rolling, and you're wanting to have like a success on the white die, but the result of the black die is what matters type thing. And it was
Yeah.
really getting me confused. I wasn't sure what was going on, but so that was a little confusing. I'd probably give this one, first impression 7.5. No,
No, yeah.
solid. Got to play it some more to see how it feels with repeated plays.
Yeah. Oh boy. Middle ages. Higher or lower than Rogue, Mini Rogue?
Probably higher.
I would say higher as well. You kind of chose 3 games, which I think will be maybe back to back to back. Are they here? I'm not sure, but we'll get to them. You sent me a picture of 3 games that you want to play, and this is one of them. And just as we started getting into it, these are very wonky tile shapes. Every color is different edges
Different.
on the crazy. Um, but as we're going, I'm like, oh, this is really approachable and really rewarding. Similar to
Yes.
King Domino, kind of a bidding for tiles where you get the best tile in the current bid, you'll bid last in the next bid. And but it's a little step up from that because everyone has a special ability. Oh, not all of them are that like
As fun as
complicated.
others.
Yeah,
As
not as fun as others, but every time you add to a column, you get coins for each one that's already in that column, as well as one just placed. And sometimes you also gain coins for different columns and how many you have in those. You kind of customize that and just get massive amounts of points.
yeah, it got to be really fun once you started getting a bunch of them on there, and then like reactivating something and just getting a huge chunk of points all at once. Uh, Definitely. I mean, this is another one that it is family weight, but yeah, I think like you said, it's probably just a little bit more than King Domino, but
Oh,
it does make me really think of King Domino for some reason. Uh, but yeah, I like this one quite a bit, and trying to figure out how to maybe combine. Oh boy, that one right in front of us there looks like what Pepper did to me a little
yes,
bit.
he bumped up his yellow. I did not bump up my yellow. But once they bumped it up, I just started taking all the yellow tiles. It just happened to need it. But
Well, I had a bunch of people and stuff, which is one of the multipliers on yellow, and man,
oh
you
yeah,
just kept taking the yellows. You kept taking them. Uh, yeah, and I think this one. I think this. I don't know when it comes out, or maybe it already did in Germany. I think this could be a Spiel des Jahres nominee. I think it really could. It feels like that kind of style of game.
I agree. This is one that should be a go-to. This is a universally loved game. This should be because it looks great too. I love the artwork and how the board comes together and kind of creates a little silly, but it's a landscape. It's the artwork connects. Um, I really like this one. Just enough cleverness in it to elevate it above a lot of other kind of. I wouldn't say it's not completely a filler game, but a heavy filler game.
Heavy filler. That's
Uh,
fair. That is fair. I'll probably give this one maybe like an 8.5. I think my highest so far. Probably
okay.
like this one the most out of the ones. Could even be higher potentially. I definitely want to play this one some more
Um,
and kind of see maybe how it feels. I'm hoping kind of like I know some people like when they play King Domino enough times they're like, I've had my share of King Domino. With that one, feel like that's just my example of like a game I can just keep going to,
yeah,
comfort food game. And I understand it isn't changing drastically from game to game, if at all, especially we've probably played it like 20, 30 times at least. And I still really, really enjoy it. I'm hoping that this will feel the same way and not feel like, oh, you got to go for, you can't let them get these ones because these are the most strong.
yeah,
King Domino, I mean, you do have the ones that are worth more points and stuff, but
it's balanced.
doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to always win if they get those.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd give this one. This is probably nearing a 9 as well for me, 8 to 9. Really, really enjoyed. Oh, and another one that you sent, which looked to be, is this might be the highest weight up to that point, at least on Board
I
Game
think so.
Arena. I think it was a 3. Not a lot of images of this one, but the cover was amazing. I know that must have drawn you in,
Yeah,
and it did for me as well. But then I'm
yeah.
like,
I think I
okay,
saw. Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
I think I saw the cover. If I remember, I'm pretty sure I saw the cover of this one at Gen Con last year, and I was interested then, but I don't know that they had a game to play of it. So then when I saw this pop up on there, I sent this one and I sent that other one because I think I'd seen that one too. I knew that one was coming at some point, and I was excited for that one from things I'd seen of it. I think mostly those puzzle board pieces were like, interesting. I wonder how that's going to work. Uh, but yeah, I was excited once I saw that this was on Board Game Arena. You were
Yes.
not so excited initially.
I was worried. I'm like, oh, it's going to be super heavy, super complicated. But as you were teaching the rules, and specifically, oh boy, let's see, there we go. Specifically, kind of this river, and each of you roll a die, and it's 1 through 6, and it corresponds to these different kind of regions. This gray region equals 1, and 2, 3, 4, 5, way down to the 6 blue region of river spaces and this track. And you roll your die, and that's what you have to assign on your turn to either build buildings in that region along the river, or move your ship along the river and gain the bonuses from all the little nodes that are touching your space. So if you moved into this little triangle here, as you can see, it's separated by those little lines, you would gain the bonus from the tile placed here, the tile placed here, the tile placed here, and the tile placed here. The bonus is printed on the tip of the tile, which all of them have pre-printed coins there. So no matter what, you're going to at least gain something. But as the game goes along, you get more and more awesome tiles out there and can gain amazing bonuses and points and movement on tracks. And then if you activate your own tiles, if people activate them, you gain bonuses as well.
Mhm.
As you were explaining it, I was like, okay, take back everything I said. I am very excited to play this game. And then I got absolutely obliterated as you beat me on almost every one of these tracks for control. But I still really, really love this game.
Yeah, I think as I was reading it, I like I said when I went into it, I had no idea what this game was. I only really liked the cover art, and I'm like, oh, that looks like a really cool world, and yeah, cool with the boat things. And as I was reading, I'm like, this is not sounding as complex. There's definitely some things in the game. There's a lot to think about, but not nearly as much as I had thought was potentially going to be the case. And yeah, as I was reading, I'm like, okay, that's a simple action you could do. That's a simple action. That's simple. I'm like, okay, you don't have that many options. It seems pretty simple, and I'm like, a lot of or a couple of those seem very satisfying. Like, oh, you're getting like you said, if you're moving your ship down, you get the reward of 4 spaces. I'm like, holy smoke, that seems like a lot. And then like if anyone else lands on your spot, you're getting a bonus from the top buildings that you own. you're going up these tracks. I always like tracks, finding different ways to go up those, and you can get these specialists or whatever. I don't remember what their name was exactly, but you can buy these cards because there's like some resources on certain spots that you can get to buy things, and they kind of give you these insane feeling bonuses. I don't know. After one play, I don't know how balanced they all are. If they all feel kind of all
No,
good. I know all mine felt like they were good, but
yours seemed really, really nice because you
yeah,
could upgrade your boat and then you got to move along the tracks whenever you landed there, which once you build the buildings and fill all the spots, it's hard to move up those tracks. So that felt really good
mhm.
for you specifically. And I don't know if mine felt as nice, or maybe I didn't really think about them that much. I got a lot of resources to be able to buy those cards, but to then also have to roll the die to match the thing, I always felt like it was a safety net of an action. Like, oh, I don't really want to do anything on the river with this die, so I'll just do my person and pay for that card. I have the resources, but oh yeah, I also need to have that number that is on that card with my die. And that's probably my one nitpick. I feel like that's maybe one too much restriction for playing those
Yeah,
cards. I maybe you do need it, but I just felt like of the resources, I should be able to do that even if I didn't
that
roll it.
that is fair. Overall, I would say the one thing, and I luckily felt like I didn't have it bother me too much most of the time. But yes, you're just rolling one die, so it kind of comes down to that. You do get these divine blessings, I think, or karma as I call them, because it made me think of Rajas of the Ganges. And then they can adjust a die by one value. You can wrap around the 6 and 1, so you can kind of get around the die, but um, they're not like extremely hard to get, but they're not like you're not like
Yeah,
always bringing in a new income of being able to change the die and stuff very quickly. Because
yeah,
I think you had a few rounds in a row where you just were not getting the die rolls you had needed, and
yeah,
you'd already spent all of yours, and
yeah.
it was just
I,
that can be
I,
a little bit frustrating.
yeah.
But
I should have gone and gotten some more of that karma, some more of the blessings, but I usually don't too focus on that in Raja, so I didn't do that one so much here. But it is important to have at least one to use if you
yeah,
need it.
yeah, but yeah, I would say I think that's the one negative that I had with the game is that potentially didn't affect me, but I could definitely see that being something that could affect people. And yeah, I think you've got a good point. It maybe would be totally fine if you just didn't have that requirement on the specialists to build
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
because yeah, the rest, at worst, you can still go down the river, get some benefits.
yeah,
May
yeah,
not be the most ideal thing, but at least you can do that.
yeah,
And going down the river, I really like that. So sometimes when you go down the river, it seems like in these games, like, oh, you get to the end, oh, that triggers the end of a round. We're gonna do some whatever scoring thing, and then we're gonna all start back at the top or something.
yeah,
No, this one's just a continuous. You get down to this bottom, and then you go back to the top and keep with your movement, so you don't actually like necessarily
yeah,
stop here unless you're die, obviously, because you have to go the exact amount that you did. So
yeah.
that's one thing people are gonna like or not like as well. Uh, but I was totally fine with it. I liked it, and then you get to trigger all these bonuses when you do the wraparound, which I found
Yes.
really cool.
Yeah, that was one of the best rivers in gaming.
Yes, and then
Say.
well, the halfway through the game, the whatever
Oh
emperor
yes, I
comes
forgot
through
about
and
that.
triggers
Yeah,
wasn't as big as we'd hoped. I think
yeah,
we were both a little disappointed, not disappointed, but we were hoping for even more.
yeah,
But for all the buildings that you've built, come like halfway through the game, it's determined by these number of tiles and how quickly they go out. At that point in the game, the Emperor goes down the river and gives the owner of the building bonuses for every single tile that everyone's built. And I'm just like, when I read that, I was like, holy smokes, that sounds amazing. And it was good. I just didn't realize the game went by faster than I would have thought.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Wish he did it one more time, like third of the way through, 2/3 of the way through.
That's
Yeah,
true.
uh,
Even though I don't know how long the game it was that we played, I
yeah,
feel like I would have been fine with. I mean, obviously weren't maybe enough spaces to build all the buildings in that case, but
yeah,
if we would have had like maybe even one more round of kind of what we did, but maybe not. Maybe it was the right amount. Have
yeah,
to play it some more.
yeah. But yeah, this one I'd say what was my favorite so far? Probably My City was my favorite so far, and this one is right up there with it. This has got to be a 9 for me. I really enjoyed this one and look forward to playing this one a lot more.
Yeah, me as well. I'd give this one, oh, might even creep up to like a 9.25, but that is one play. Could definitely change. I could see maybe with more plays, something will seem a little bit more irritating, maybe with that die. So I don't want to get too excited, but I did really like everything that this one did. So that
Yeah.
was two for three of the ones I sent.
Yes. Yeah, the Middle Ages and River of Gold. Can he keep it up? Gonna be hard to beat that one. So let's just go on to a big lower, not too much lower, I would say. I actually enjoyed GrumbleStone a decent amount. Judging by your face, that maybe you didn't enjoy this one as much as I did.
But yeah, this one was not the third one I took a picture of, but yeah, this one, when I first saw, you have kind of this grid of different, I don't know, it's got some different icons on it that do different things, and then you're placing out more polygonal tiles and stuff onto it. I thought, oh, that looks kind of cool. That looks kind of cool. And then we were playing it, and at first I was like, oh no, this is just gonna end right away. This is not
Yeah.
gonna be great at all. And then it kind of got to the point where it was pretty close by the end, and it was better than I had thought. I think.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if it, because as you can see, you're manipulating your board, getting it more and more powerful, rolling your dice, activating a row and column, and we got some pretty stacked attack rows and columns pretty early on, and significantly drained our health bars to where it's like, oh, this is going to be like 3 rounds. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have much hope for the game at that point, but somehow we
I
just
agree.
got more and more shields, and you got some kind of ongoing shield and attack every round, and it
Mm-hmm.
actually got really close and ended up being, I think, 1 health to 0. I had just barely beaten you, but I think you had done something that you didn't want to do to where you actually, there's
Yeah.
an asterisk next to my victory.
Yeah. Thing with Board Game Arena, sometimes you click on things thinking it's going to do something, and then it doesn't, and then it doesn't have an undo button. Uh, I had one where I had spent, so you can spend health to manipulate the dice rolls a little bit. So pretty costly, but sometimes can be useful. And that, so to do a specific thing, and I thought I had it set up that way, and then it took a different thing, and I'm like, I could have done almost that same exact thing. I think it would have been a little less, but not by much, and just saved my 2 health. I don't think it would have changed much for me. So I was like, and I think that was going to be an attempt to bring your health, because at that point we had kind of recouped some health and were had a lot more shields and stuff. So I wanted to kind of try to bring you down a little bit to hopefully be ready the next time to finish you off. But yeah, that mishap there kind of set me off a little bit. But yeah, overall it ended up being very close, 1 hit point difference. So
Yeah.
it ended up being better than I thought, but I still like I mixed on it. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't my least favorite either. It probably sitting around the same spot as kind of those early ones we looked at, probably around a 6.5, 6.75.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
would
yeah,
give this a 7 to an 8, probably. I don't think it's the top tier, but I think it's pretty good, and I just like the building out of your action grid is
mm-hmm.
something cool and satisfying to me.
No, yeah, yeah, that's fair. And I think this one's a little bit more on the simple side.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to maybe manipulate the dice, just
Yeah,
because it's very
sometimes.
costly to do it, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, unless I think I ended up getting my person. I like that they each have powers that you can get throughout the game.
Oh, yep.
Yours helped you heal, and mine helped me manipulate the dice, which was helped me hurt you and negate all your healing by taking you down a bunch. But I like that they're different, and the production
Mhm.
looks really nice. And I almost want this system, something like this, in maybe a bigger game. It feels like it should be in a
Oh, yeah.
Mountain King kind of game in the third
Yeah,
entry or
I could
fourth
see
or
that.
fifth.
I could see them doing something like this. This does feel very much like it would fit in that sort of world. And yeah, I could see this being kind of a smaller part of a different game. I
Yeah.
agree.
Okay, where was that one? Right there.
Where was I?
There
Yeah,
we
that one's another one. Not much information out there. I don't know if it's a
Yeah.
newer one.
Yeah. And another one no one knows anything about. The 423rd greatest game of all time. Maybe. It's probably not going to break the top 10 of this list, so I don't know how it made that. Um, this one is,
Downforce.
yep, Downforce Restoration Games. We were between this and Rallyman. So that is on there as well. So I decided to learn this one because I'm like, I like restoration games. It's more highly ranked. And then we had a very interesting game of this, which I think comes down to my player error as we were bidding on these, I was going to say horses, bidding on these beautiful, majestic horses. And I let you get 5 of the 6. I just kept bidding low. I was like, he's not going to bid too high. He already has 3 cars. And then you bid 2 or 3, and I bid 1. And then, like, he has 4 cars. He's not going to bid much. He's not going to bid at all. He'll save his money. And I just missed out, and I only got 1 car, which is forced minimum. And then I was like, well, he's guaranteed to make his money back just with placement bonuses. So then I knew I was in trouble, and I was going to have to try to sneak the win somehow from you. And you also had a special power card that usually, when you play a card, it has various movement amounts for the different colored cars. Are there any here?
The ones you own and the ones other people own potentially.
Yes. So if I play this, and I want to play, like, this would be great if I owned the orange car and I was out in the lead. I could play this card. I'd move 6, and I would move the yellow 5. I would move the blue 4. And I can maybe try to maneuver them and mess up the opponent's cars. But you had a power that said, even when I play the cards, you control the cars you own, which was all the other ones. So I did very little in this playthrough.
You did. You had very little influence outside of the green car. And yeah, and then there's some areas where you can kind of trap cars behind other cars, and I was able to early on trap you. And I think, yeah, you could kind of calculate it based on me having 5 out of the cars, what my money I had spent and what I could potentially win. I think I just had to for sure that I get first place. Like if you'd gotten first, I think that was the only way that I could lose.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I just sent Orange out there, get as far as I possibly could, and tried to block you for as long as I could. Because once you
Yes.
got free, you were pretty much good to go. But I
Yeah.
was able
Ended
to
up
block you
getting
probably
second
2, 3
place.
turns.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, and then orange just shoots past these yellow betting lines. So wasn't that interesting that way either, because it's like,
No.
well, orange is pretty obviously going to win. And, yeah, so I think the system is good and approachable, but we just had a really wild, different experience. And I think this would be better at higher player counts for sure, where it's not just me versus you.
Yeah. And it did say, I think 3 and 6 were the best player counts. My guess is they're either buying 2 or 1 car. I guess I don't know what it says for the other player counts as well. 4 and 5. 4 and 5 look better than 2, definitely. 2 is definitely not the greatest player count there.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 and 5 still also look like they're not nearly as good as 3 and 6. But
Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was a good system. But yeah, definitely at 2 players. At 2 players, I would give this like I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but probably like a 6 because I'm like I don't know how this would end up. Maybe it would have been more interesting if we had both gotten like 3 cars. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that experience was probably like very low, like a 5 or something. It was crazy, so it's so crazy that it's laughable. But overall, I think the game for me would probably be like about a 7 or maybe an 8 in its right setting.
Yeah, I think the gameplay itself was solid. I can see why it's ranked in the top 500 for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, and the third of the picture trilogy that you sent me.
Is this one ranked higher than that last one?
Oh my
407?
goodness, 407 versus 423, it is.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, might be the highest ranked that we played. Not sure. I assume so.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Surely.
But yes, this was the third one of my trilogy of games, Distilled, and this is one that, along with the awards of the Spiel des Jahres, another kind of set of awards that were, at least the nominations were made as well, were the Dice Tower Awards, and Distilled, I think, was nominated maybe 3 or 4 categories. I'm not sure. Was it 6?
Six
Oh boy,
categories.
I'd have to. I'm gonna have to relook because I didn't even realize there were that many that they not any awards they were going for there. My
I
goodness.
was blown away. There's another game that we really liked, Sky Team, and I'm like, oh, that's got the most nominations for sure. I think that had like 5. Then I'm counting Distilled. I'm like, that has 6 nominations, and I'd never heard of it until you brought it up.
Yeah, I'd heard of this one. I saw this one at Gen Con last year. I did not pick it up. I feel like I'd heard maybe a couple people say some negative things about it or not love it exactly. So I was like, okay. I think it's a pricier game, so I was like, I'll just kind of leave that one for now. I've got Viticulture, which I really love because I don't know, it kind of makes me think of that, even though they are different. And this is definitely a different style of game than Viticulture. Uh, but yeah, once it was nominated, we're going to make predictions on that. So if you want to see those, definitely subscribe so you'll see when that video comes out. Should come out shortly, around the same time as this video,
Yep.
but might even come out before. I don't know. But yeah, in this game, you are distilling some different alcohols. And yeah, when I was reading through the rules, I'm like, huh, this is not what I thought this game was. I don't know what I thought it was. I hadn't really looked too much into it, I guess, before. But yeah, you are kind of getting the different ingredients to alcohol using like water and what is it? I call it wheat, but I always say it wrong, I think.
Yeast.
Yeast, water, yeast, and then some sugars, whether it be wheat sugars or fruit
Yeah.
or veggies or whatever it was. Um, and you're kind of putting those in there. You can do different combinations of them, any number of each of those cards, and then you'll kind of take those. You'll make one each round,
Yeah.
which I find is pretty cool. You're kind of going all in each round, just doing one, not just trying to see who can do. Oh, I'm going to make 5 of these in one round, and which I guess could be a positive or negative, depending
Yeah.
on who you are. But yeah, you'll have this hand of card. You'll put alcohol cards in for every sugar that you have, and you'll take 2 off the top or 2 off the deck. I guess I don't know if they're off the top or not. But maybe 1 off the top and 1 off the bottom. Uh, and you will put those back in your storehouse so you can use those later.
Yeah.
But the rest of it will form some alcohol, and you can make kind of based on what you have the recipes for, or else you have 2 kind of unlocked right at the start, which are not as good in points and stuff, but kind of just give you that option if you mess up and don't end up getting what you want. I think that's moonshine and vodka. Depending on whether it had sugar still left in it or not, it'll determine which one of those it becomes. Otherwise, you're going for one of these other ones you've unlocked throughout the game. You can see you put cubes on the ones that you unlock, and then you need to fulfill a certain requirement. Some of them age, some don't. I think I'd asked you yesterday, and I think the aging in this one was pretty interesting. I do like this one, or pretty satisfying, I should say. I think I might like it a little bit more than Viticulture's aging, just because it just feels cool. Like, oh, it's just an easy thing. Like, you add some flavoring each round that it's sitting there. I really like that, even though it's not really that big of a thing, but it just feels like, oh yeah, making it better, making it better.
Yeah, it's not like a requirement for the orders. Like where viticulture, it has to be a certain level, which is fun when you get there, but sometimes you got to buy extra storage to do all that. You don't have to get upgrades and hit a certain number with this one. You can choose to take it out and sell it whatever round you want. You
Just has to age once if it's an aging one, but otherwise,
yes. So I like that as well. I think it is. I do prefer it to viticulture. I think I prefer viticulture the game, but I do prefer the aging in this. It's just a little cooler, and maybe it's just because it's fresh and newer on the brain. But I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I agree. And then when you are fulfilling these contracts, you kind of get these. I think the other big thing that I really found satisfying about this one was you complete them and then you get kind of a little thing that says moonshine or whatever kind you made, and then you have on top of your player board some bonuses you can get. And those bonuses are just amazing. Because
Yeah.
just right off the bat, like you can potentially, and I think you probably got the least fun one. I think you ended up picking the least fun one to start
Mm.
the game, maybe
Oh, yeah.
unknowingly.
I
We
got
just didn't know what was coming.
5 coins. I'm like, 5 coins. Although I didn't start with many coins with my
That's true.
faction, which also each person has a unique ability, which I found very unique
Oh yeah,
compared to each
and they have
other.
a secret recipe that you can potentially unlock as well, which is one of those things that you can do. But I think the one I did, which felt the most satisfying, I guess, was you could get what was it, upgrades or
Oh, yeah.
equipment. I want to say equipment, but I don't remember if that was the exact
Items,
term. Items.
or yeah, upgrades to your distillery. Yeah, and
And
those
like I
can.
got one right off the bat, and it was great. You can get something that it doesn't matter the cost. So you can get something really expensive, and it could help you the rest of the game. And that's just to me, that's awesome.
Like a
Like
7 cost barrel you can get just for free. I mean, you are forgoing the 2 points that you could get otherwise from
yeah,
doing that order, but it's very much worth it, I think, because coins can get really tight in this game, especially
mhm.
if you are aging
Oh
it
yeah,
and not actually selling it around, then you're not going to be producing those coins. And to be able to get that kind of massive discount and possibly a great ongoing ability with it, that is pretty great, I will say.
mhm. I thought that's one of the most satisfying things I think I've felt in a game, especially something you get that early on. It's a lot of games. It feels like you can eventually get these things. You know, you kind of build up, build up, build
Yeah.
up. Now I can finally afford that big thing, and now I can do some cool stuff. But now you've only got maybe 1 or 2 rounds left. No, this you're gonna get it all 7 rounds potentially, or all 6, or whatever it ends up being. I
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. But uh, yeah. So I like this one quite a bit. Probably a little bit more than you, maybe. I'm trying to decide though which one I like more out of this one and River
Oh,
of Gold.
River of
And
Gold.
just initial thoughts. I'd probably give this one like a 9. I think I like this one
Yeah.
quite a bit. So I we might have to go through the rest of them. I don't remember what's on here, but I don't know if it's just because I picked them, but I feel like the 3 I picked might be my 3 favorite that we played.
No, yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean, living up to the hype. Some games that you hype up, you're excited for, and maybe it's not quite what you look for, but
Right.
if they deliver, that makes it just even more satisfying. As you're explaining this one to me, as I was learning it, I'm like, oh, I'm not grasping this. I'm not River of Gold. That was a fluke that I was able to even understand that one. This one's just this is what I expected over my head. But as we went on, it started to make sense and really got a lot more comfortable with the game. I enjoyed my play of it a decent amount. I'd give this maybe even an 8. I really enjoyed the gameplay and gives that kind of relaxing, satisfying viticulture feel. I think if you like the feel of viticulture, I think that is here in this game as well.
Yeah,
Um, so
that's
yeah,
fair.
I recommend it for a heavier game, which is not my comfortable type of game. I found it fun.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, maybe
Definitely
just
deserves nominations, I think.
yes. I don't know if it deserves 6.
Yeah, maybe not 6. I did like it quite a bit, but that is a lot. I'm gonna have to go back and see what those 6 are and see if maybe it makes sense.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. I still prefer root beer. Wish
And
you could
I've
make
got
that.
Piv Extra.
Yeah, the ice
We
is
need
melted.
we need some sponsorships.
Oh, the ice was melted. That was just terrible. That was just pure water at the top.
Which
I
could
sipped
happen
it.
to your alcohol here.
It could. It could.
You could take the alcohol out completely, actually. And they said that just means it's cheaper.
Oh, pulled the curtain back. They did. The industry. Ooh, and a smaller game, but still like not a light game. Well, it is a lighter game. It's quite light, but
The third Bruno.
it's yes, the third Bruno Seal, and this one is a the other one that we were talking about, the Draft and Write game, Draft and Write Records. This one I was like, oh, this will be an
Brought
easy
to us
one.
by Mike.
Yes, brought to us. I always think Mike DeLisio is on the cover and that he's the designer just because there was a Dice Tower promo with him for this game. All I think.
That's all I think of ever now when I think of this game.
Fine. But yeah, I thought this would be an easy one. Like, oh, we'll just jump right into this, and then there were a lot of parts to this game. There's the top right, bottom middle, middle with a bunch of connecting things. 4 tracks at the top here, and a couple of routes on the left. There's a lot of connecting parts. But as we went on, I think it all works together. You're assigning, you are drafting these band members. Here's all the cards together. It's a little clearer. Drafting these band members and putting them into the center area of your board. So you can see this one. The bottom right says its value. This is a 1.1, and it has colors sticking out from each of the 4 directions. And those are the colors that you fill in the board with. So you can see here at this center green spot, they put a 1 value person in there with a blue at the top and bottom, purple on the left, yellow on the right. And pretty much what you're trying to do there is, in addition to getting high point values, is match the colors and the surrounding edges. As you can see, there are quite a few matches here. And then when you do that, you cross off the matching colors down on this track, creating rows and columns, getting bonuses. And cards let you go over here and fill rows and columns, gain bonuses, make connections on this board to gain bonuses, move along this track to gain bonuses, multiply these 2 tracks for points, try not to get scandal for negative points, and achieve a bunch of objectives. There's a lot going on, but I think I like every part of this, every section.
Yeah, I think they're all very satisfying. I would say if you're a big fan of the Gone Shown Clever universe of games, I think this one you will like quite a bit. It has a lot of bonuses and stuff. That's what it reminds me most of. Is just being, going back and forth, and I feel like it's around that same level. Maybe a little bit more, just because it's got a few extra pieces on top of it. And yeah, I like this one quite a bit. I actually went back and played it solo. I think there's some different rules or some slight changes as to how the end game is triggered, and I guess I didn't really read that. I just tried to do as well as I could based on how our previous play had gone. So yeah, I liked it enough to go back and do that even. But we tend to like these. We have a top 10 verb and write games. We've played many since, and I feel like we've played a lot of solid ones since, and I'm like, oh boy, I could already probably update that list, even though all those ones were pretty solid. So you can go check that out if you want to see some other ones we like. But I would say probably more than maybe some other people, we tend to be big fans of the verb and verb style of games.
Yeah, I
there
think
are a lot of them, but we like them.
I think this is another good one that it doesn't stand out because it does something, even though it is a draft. I do like the drafting and building, but it didn't feel like, oh, it's doing some weird gimmick or anything. I think it just, that center area of that connections with the band members, that makes this feel a lot different. I think that's something that's unique. It's not just connections or rows and columns. It's something different.
Yeah, I really like that. I think I was hoping in my head, I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome when I connect all of these. Don't go into it thinking you're going to connect a bunch of them because it is much more difficult than you'd think. You can't really plan too much for it, but it is very satisfying when you get like even just 2 of them matching is pretty awesome.
I got 3. I got 3, and that was amazing. That just right away feels like, oh my gosh, the perfect card. But yeah, there can definitely be luck with what you get, what you don't get, and the objectives that come out as well can benefit you or hurt you possibly. But that's just the way it is with these games. I don't know if there's a single verb and verb that does not have a decent amount of luck.
That's true. That is true. Aside of maybe Hadrian's Wall, I guess, what do you give that one? Initial
this
thoughts.
one, I would give this one, I'd say this is at least an 8, probably. I'd say a solid 8.
Yeah, I was thinking around, for me, 7.75 to 8. So right around that same spot. This one's just as good as those other ones, I think,
Yeah.
and just feels just different enough to stand out.
Yes. Boy. Masters of Renaissance, Lorenzo Il Magnifico, the card game. I had thought of Lorenzo when I was looking at this one. I'm like, oh, just probably based on art style. I didn't know until we were partway through the game, at least, that it actually is based on that in some way. Even though gameplay wise, I don't know if I actually felt anything from Lorenzo Il Magnifico.
Yeah, it's been a while since I played that one, but that was where we're putting out like the different colored things, right? And they have different powers depending on the dice rolls.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I think there might have been some similarities, but yeah, I don't know how it was, if it's that close to the same. But yeah, I thought this one looked like I mean, it's called the card game, but for some reason, this one's making me think of kind of almost a verb and verb style of game
Okay.
or feeling level of game. It's not quite, but it's kind of what it made me think of. And yeah, I think this one was approachable. You're just kind of trying to buy these different levels of cards and go up on this church track and then maybe activate those cards by trading certain resources in for other resources or go up on that track some more. Uh, Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, I think when it comes down to it, you try to get something that kind of continues feeding itself, like I
Yeah.
ended up getting. I don't know if that will always happen, but that one felt pretty satisfying. I was able to I got to the point where I could just keep doing the same thing and pretty much forcing the end of the game. But
Yeah.
it ended up being closer than I thought it would after I got that going. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed this one a decent amount. I think it is pretty core. The core stuff is very simple. It's
mhm.
like Century, Golem Edition, or any of the Centuries. You're just getting these cards that are trading this for that and upgrading them and getting points from them. That's all pretty basic. We've seen that before. I do like the resource production aspect over here where you can see this grid. Here's a little closer. You can see this grid of colors. Each one corresponds to a resource, and you
Mhm.
just kind of choose a row or a column and gain everything in it, and then slide this extra ball in from the arrow for that row or column, and it kind of cycles it slightly as the game goes by. That's just a fun little mini game I like,
Yeah.
and just all the different choices of combinations of resources to try to find something that works perfect for you while not getting too many that you cannot fit them in your storage. So then the opponent, I think, gains bonuses along that track at the
Yep.
top of the board for points. It was nice. It was approachable, not as scary as I would think from a Lorenzo Il Magnifico game. I'd give this maybe a 7.5 for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would say it was not too crazy. I really liked the combo I ended up getting, but I
Yeah,
don't know if that will actually happen from game to game. And we both got so there's like these special cards that you can build potentially throughout the game, and we both got one that ended up making those white balls be something versus just being nothing. So
yeah,
that was helpful as well. But yeah, managing the resources, it's a tight little storage system you have there.
yeah,
Uh, I'd maybe come in with a 7. I don't know that I was like blown away by anything in the game, but it also wasn't like bad or anything. It just kind of was average for me.
yeah, yeah,
Had some interesting things,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
True.
I don't know if this is one that I would play like a bunch of times. Whereas there's a lot of the other ones that we played here that I probably would be willing to play many
Yeah,
times.
yeah. There's some little clever things in here, but it doesn't have me like, oh, I want to play that again. Where some of the others on this list do.
Yeah, especially going back over them. Even I'm like, oh boy,
Yeah.
we gotta get back to that.
Oh, and then one we played 4 times in a row because it has 4 maps. Made him play me 4 times. Plus, I had to even the score. It ended up being 2-2. And this is Takenokolor. And the core of the game. You're rolling these markers like dice, and you get shapes on the sides of them, and you have to fill in a spot on your board that is that color and that shape. And that's pretty much how the game goes, and you get points for reaching the tops of the bamboo stalks that are there. This isn't one of the boards. I don't know what this is.
I don't know what that is either.
But yeah, you reach certain points on these bamboo stalks. So you roll a pink circle and you cross off the bottom spot here. You just go back and forth doing that until one person reaches 3 ladybugs, which are also points, and you just add up your points from all the bamboo stalks you've filled, or if you completed different areas, like this has a sun that you can complete for 5 points, and each of the maps adds more and more things. One of them adds a river that you can fill up with your blue markers, and then also fish in the river that are various colors that you can fill up. Then another one had like a waterfall and some more extra buildings and multipliers that you can do, and then finally a dragon in the fourth one that we can move along and gain bonuses and light lanterns, and it gets a lot more complicated, especially on those last two
Yes.
with how they score. This very much, I would say, kids can play this easily. Those higher levels, I wouldn't say introduce them to those first.
Yeah, I would not start with those ones. But yeah, once we played this first one, I was like, eh. And then you're like, oh, we play more maps, and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it would have been after that one, I would have probably been like, not my favorite, not awful, but it's just kind of it doesn't feel like I'm making too many interesting decisions.
Yeah.
But as we got to those later maps, or pretty much probably all of them, but that first one,
Yeah.
I liked a lot more. And yeah, the final two, I probably liked the most. I'm shocked looking at this, and maybe this is just people that have played the first one. The score in there. Okay, I don't think there was any pandas that look like that in there. If you go back to the average rating, I was actually shocked at how low that was. And there's not that many
Oh,
ratings.
wow.
Might need to get our ratings in there, but
Yeah.
5.5 would have. I did not know that it was this. You were the one that suggested it, but if I'd have saw that, I'd probably been like, I don't know if
Yeah.
we should probably play that. And then especially after that first one, I'd have been like, oh, it must not get any better. I thought after the last ones, I liked it quite a bit. I probably not as good as the other kind of bourbon rights we've played today,
Okay.
maybe, but I think it's still a solid 7 for me if I'm playing probably any of them, but maybe that first one.
Yeah, I would say so. That
It's
first one,
simple. It is simple, but
yeah, that first one's definitely lower, but the other ones I think are pretty interesting. I was interested in every turn, and sometimes luck as well. In this one can just not go your way, and if you're going for the same colors and even the same colors and same shapes, it can be tough depending on who's first player. But yeah, I would say 7 to 8 as well for kind of the whole package, and I would recommend this one if you want a game that you can enjoy, but also would want to introduce to possibly children for that base level. I think that is a great way to introduce the younger audience to the roll and write genre.
yeah. And I think it'll be kind of cool with the pen. I don't know how it'll be in real life, how well those roll and how nicely they end up on the side. I don't know. That maybe is part of it too. Maybe in real life they don't work as well. I have no idea. Uh,
Okay.
but yeah, I think this would be solid for that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. What do they say? Pen's terrible. Nope. Should have the review. Yeah. And the final one that we played just a little bit ago, NEOM.
Yeah. Has nothing to do with cars or anything that would make a noise going like that we know of. I don't actually know what it means, I guess.
Neo Modern City.
Ah.
Must be.
Yeah, this one's kind of just a city, I guess you could call it a city building game, where you're laying out these tiles or cards. I don't know what it would be in real life. It must be cardboard tiles, maybe.
Yeah.
And you're just putting them on this grid, connecting them to that center point that you've got kind of those uh, roads on there. You have to kind of connect back to that. So you're just putting them out here. and they all kind of do slightly different things. Some give you kind of end game scoring. Some are those green ones that you want to have those all kind of together. You have some blue ones that kind of give you coins at the end of each round, and you can spend those coins kind of Seven Wonder style to potentially use resources to build some of those. You can see in the top left corners, there's a lot of them that
Yeah.
require certain resources. You can either get some or get some yourself that allow you. So some of those on the bottom there produce resources. You can use your own, or you can use the neighbors by paying for them. It is pretty simple getting them on there. I think it definitely helped that I think all these. I don't know if all the tiles are different, but
Oh,
there are
yeah.
definitely a lot of different ones. And I think the kind of board game arena implementation of being able to hover over the tiles and see what they do or how good they will be for you
Yeah.
definitely makes it much more approachable of seeing like, okay, well, this one's going to cost me some money to get, but overall it's going to get me this much back by the end of the game or something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, yeah. Did it do that? Did it say by the end? Oh, yeah, it did say a few things like that.
Yeah.
That's really
Like
nice.
the blue ones anyway, because those are what I focus on in our game.
Yeah.
Where it would say like, oh, over the rest the following rounds, you're going to get 21 coins, which is equal to 10.5 points or whatever it was. Type
Oh,
thing.
okay. Yeah, that's really nice. That's really helpful. Yeah, this one was pretty approachable as well. Just get a tile per round, and they weren't. I was worried because you ended up getting a lot of production, a lot of blue tiles, and I thought, oh, what does he know that I don't? Are these tiles going to get like significantly more and more expensive? But they didn't really get all that more expensive, and I didn't really trade much, so that was helpful. I produced a
You had
lot
a
of
lot of
resources,
resources. Yeah.
and I did pretty much get 1 coin per turn with the special tile I had. So that made it so it was never that much of a struggle. I like this one. I like the special scoring of the tiles. I got a couple that felt really satisfying trying to group different colors together or create circles with my roads. Um, and the coins as well are always 2-for-1 is a very generous to point ratio. And when I saw you were producing, you had 100 coins at the end of the game. I'm like, oh my goodness, he's going to destroy me. And it ended up being like within 8 points or something,
Mm-hmm.
7, 8 points. And that blew me away because I had like 10 coins. It's
Right.
crazy how I was able to make that up and how maybe we got lucky, but how balanced it could seem for 2 completely different strategies.
Yeah, we took totally different paths and ended up right next to each other. Yeah, I like this one quite a bit as well. I think the only negative to it was there are some tiles that are like disaster tiles, and you either have to. So whoever picks that one, I think it affects all your opponents. We only played a two-player game, so we're just affecting the other person. But then they have to either pay coin costs for certain building types or destroy possibly multiple buildings. And so that's just not that much fun to
Yeah.
me. I don't know. I'd rather be continuously building up my own thing than tearing other people down because you have to take that instead of taking a tile then that round. So you just get one less tile then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'd rather have a tile than force someone to lose points potentially by just paying the coins. It doesn't seem all that fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
agree, but they weren't too big of a part. There weren't too many of them.
that's true. There weren't too many, luckily. But yeah, I thought that one was pretty solid. Probably give that one like a 7.25, 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd give it 7 to 7.5 as well.
Okay. But yeah, those are the 14 games we played in like the last week or so. Uh, Overall, a lot of fun. Not too many duds, and even the duds were not like the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So yeah, I highly recommend looking into these. Like I said, if you are interested in us doing kind of a try before you buy where we play through these games, let us know in the comments below which ones, and we'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, we hope to see you on our other videos, and as always, don't forget to keep on nibbling on our content.